Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marvel Plus podcast, the show where we talk the shows on Disney Plus and how they connect to the MCU. My name is Bret, aka Enigma911, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma911 every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You join the chat and all the fun theory talk over there. If you're a subscriber, we'd love to have you. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Drops the very next day over on YouTube. Just search Enigma911. Drops at 12 noon Eastern. You give it a watch over there, and we'd love you for it. Today, we are going to be continuing the Moon Knight series, talking about episode 2, talking about Summon the Suit. So, with our review, or kind of retelling last week, mixed feelings kind of coming out of this. I'm very intrigued by this series, but at the end of the first episode, at least I was very, not confused, but kind of lost in what exactly was happening 100%. Obviously, we see Steven is not messing around, but Steven is dealing with, these psychological issues, and obviously him not being in control of his body, and apparently there's a superhero in there, and, dealing with those problems and how he's now coming to terms with it. Not terms with it, but like facing it head on. Now he kind of is discovering what is going on with him, maybe with his sleep problems, and obviously his scheduling conflicts. So we got a lot of kind of the groundwork laid out, the foundation, and then I think episode 2 took a step in the better direction of it was more interesting, it was more engaging. Now that we have, once again, that groundwork laid out for us, I think it was easier to kind of get enveloped in the story, and I thought, once again, this episode was much better than the first. So, to kick off this episode, we got our recap of obviously what happened, and we're going to open up with some of the sounds from the creatures that we were dealing with in the museum. Steven's going to wake up from this, thinking it's a nightmare, and luckily his tether will pull him back and unfortunately make him faceplant onto the floor. But he's still thinking about this, obviously, how to deal with this, what's going on, stuff like that. So he's going to try and talk to Mark through his reflection to see if this is really what happened to him. Unfortunately, no communication back, so he's like, okay, maybe it was just a dream. Maybe I'm just, going more insane as the days go on. Well, he heads into work, and there's not construction people, but repairmen leaving the facility. So he talks with security and says he might have information himself on the event that has transpired. So they check the footage, and we we see Steven in his terrified state, obviously dealing with the creature, as we'll learn on later, a jackal, dealing with that in the museum. But through the footage, he's the only one visible. The jackal is not captured via the footage. So it just looks like this panicking man running around, bumping into the art, the museum pieces, and then running into the restroom. So security officers making fun of him there, like, what are you doing? And Steven doesn't understand, clearly, but he says, okay, fast forward to when I leave. We'll see Steven leaving the restroom, but instead of Steven, it's Mark. Very disgruntled, staring down the camera, and just leaving. No Moon Knight suit at all, just him leaving on his way after he has dealt with the problem there. So, all right, not great. So now Steven has to have a fun discussion with HR. And the museum's not going to press charges on him. I guess later on we hear that he has to do some kind of payment plan to help, fix stuff, but he's not going to jail or anything like that. And the HR rep is going to give him a pamphlet, seemingly, a doctor for his mental state, trying to help and assist him in that facet. And unfortunately, Steven has gotten laid off. He's been fired because of this. So no more working at the museum gift shop. And obviously, Steven, disgruntled, a little upset, goes to talk to his therapist, as we know is the statue in the park, or the actor at least posing as statue in the park. So he explains the whole situation to him, how he's, feeling like he's going crazy and the whole insanity that's going around for him yesterday. And he kind of talks himself into maybe chasing after or looking into the phone and the key that he had found in his apartment the other day in the storage unit. So that is where we're going to head to next. So he's been hopping around from, building to building where seemingly the storage unit is. I guess they have numerous locations. And I think this was like his third or fourth one he's checked. Luckily, man at the desk doesn't forget a face and recognizes him and is able to lead him to the storage unit. Unlocks it for him, leaves, and Steven will enter. And seemingly it is a makeshift apartment in there. Made up bed, a lot of totes, some clothes, and Steven will stumble upon a bag full of currency along with a gun. So, now Steven's starting to freak out because, this isn't mine. This isn't his, what's going on. He is going to find one more discovery in this bag, in this tote with all the money and stuff, and he's going to find a passport for one Mark Spector. So, we now have the full identity of this other personality in there. And he will also find that scarab piece, which Arthur was so interested in last episode. After discovering the compass, Mark is finally going to make his presence known in the reflection, and he's trying to talk down Steven, just like calm down the situation, trying to explain things, explain like he wasn't supposed to be involved in any of this. This was just happening on the wayside, and, he wasn't supposed to be tied in and this close to it, but something's happening. And he explains what's going on with the whole Moon Knight situation. And he serves Khonshu, who is an Egyptian god of the moon. And Steven and Mark are his avatar. So I guess essentially his living being that can deal with stuff for him, I guess. I don't know. But apparently Mark has some deal with Khonshu, and this is the last one he has. If he does that, then he is free to go. And he'll move on to the next vessel, I guess you could say. So anyways, Mark explains this, says, give me access, give me control of the body, let me finish this, and then you'll never have to see me again or deal with me again. And Steven's not having that. Duh. Why would he? And he threatens to take all of the illegal materials, the money, the gun, stuff like that, turn himself into the cops, where he will be taken in and fully medicated and hopefully get whatever's in his head sorted out. As he's making these threats to Mark, lights in both his current storage unit and the facility are kind of going to go flickering. The lights are going to mess around. He exits the storage unit, and they seem to be fine. Then they turn off, and they turn on, then they turn off, and then they turn on. This time there is that big, giant figure seemingly down the hallway. And now I get a little bit of a chase. Steven's going to run. Lights are going to constantly kind of flick on and off as this creature is approaching progressively. Steven's going to round a corner, and he will bump in to this creature. And now, because he ran into this creature, Steven thinks he's in trouble. He's going to run in a panic. He's going to run out of the building, out into the street. He falls, almost getting hit by a motorcycle, but then this motorcycle rider reveals herself to be Layla, the person on the phone that he seemingly picked up the phone call when discovering the phone last episode. So now we're going to get a whole lot of information on Layla and what her deal is. And she doesn't believe Steven's current persona, that Steven is actually Steven. She thinks Mark is putting on this big whole facade act with the accent, the background story, stuff like that. She's trying to figure out, where have you been, Mark? And she had tracked his phone down. That's how she found him. She thought that was what he wanted, by returning the call, or at least answering after months and months of nothing. And we find out that Layla is Mark's wife. Yippee! All right. So Steven, trying to defend himself, says, no, I'm me. I don't know what's going on with Mark. And says he'll explain everything if they return to his flat. So we'll hop over there. So, going to the flat, Mark is talking through the reflections. Talking to Steven like she shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be involved. This is dangerous, stuff like that. Get her to leave and, don't say anything. Steven's going to kind of quickly explain the apartment situation to Layla, like this is his mom's flat and he just lives here. We are going to get a quick dialogue that Mark and his mother don't have any connection to each other, or do not communicate anymore. So that could be a red flag concerning Steven calling his mom. Maybe a connection there. We're not going to get too much deeper into that. But then the two are going to start bonding over the Egyptian studies and kind of books, etc. around the room. Steven and Layla are bonding over that, talking about their common knowledge, like you need to know this, etc. And Steven's becoming, a little bit more interested in Layla, to say the least. So next, after their little bonding moment, Layla once again is going to lay out that she doesn't believe this whole act, that, she knows Mark, just trying to talk to him. And she's going to present some paperwork. Okay, I brought this. Are we doing this? Are you going to sign it? Apparently, they're getting a divorce. All right, Steven's not too happy about that. Meanwhile, Mark is still explaining to Steven, don't get her involved. Stop telling her all this information. And eventually, Steven is going to show her the scarab. Great. All right. So Layla goes on this whole thing. Oh, you found it. We were working on this together. Now you've gone solo. She's not too happy. We're going to get a knock at the door. It's the cops looking for Steven. He's trying to play him off at the door like, hey, yeah, can I help you? He's very scared, obviously. And the cops are going to just kind of walk in after he communicates with them at the door by cracking it open. Layla's able to get out into safety as they kind of search the apartment. One of the officers is going to find the passport for Mark Spector, and the two are going to take Steven away from his apartment and put him in the car. So he's getting taken by the cops. Apparently Mark is this big international fugitive. He's apparently executed somebody by shooting him in the back of the head. And yikes, Mark's got a big scary history. So they're taking Steven, and they stop the car, and they're not at the police station, as you would think they would be. Steven seems concerned. The officers, get out of the car and seemingly leave him. As Steven's kind of freaking out, he asks for some help outside by someone who accidentally bounced a ball off the truck. And the girl who comes to get the ball and recover it, we can see her wrist, as she's holding the ball up, has the scale tattoo, the weights, the judgment, or whatever you want to call it, like Arthur does. Ah, shit. Here we go. And Steven's going to scream out in a panic, trying to figure out, how he can get out of this. Mark's even trying to take over the situation. Give me the body. I'll get us out of this and be safe. So Steven's fighting for control of his own body. And there's going to be a radio message from the officer's car from Arthur. Steven's going to get dragged out of the car. Here's Arthur. And now we're dealing with this. So now we're going to get a lot of explanation, at least from Arthur's perspective, of what is going on. So Arthur's walking Steven through this town, explaining things. We see a lot of people that are, still kind of infatuated, like we talked about last episode, with Arthur. He's being very kind to them, complimenting certain individuals for certain things that they've done, whether it's a recipe or something around town, whatever it might be. He has a good, healthy relationship, seemingly healthy relationship with these people. And while they're walking through the town, Arthur, once again, is explaining the situation that's going on right now, and the situation with Khonshu. And he's explaining kind of his past relationship with Khonshu as well, because we learn that Arthur was the former avatar for Khonshu. Apparently Khonshu, very aggressive, at times can throw temper tantrums, and none of the gods respect him, the other Egyptian gods, and he has been banished by them. And Khonshu's whole thing is to punish those who did real harm in the world. So, somebody does something bad, he's going to go and try and make it right. So, as Arthur's explaining this, he kind of explains his new perspective. Like, what Khonshu is doing isn't great. It takes too long. He is going to act after things happen. The retribution takes too long. While Ahmed just does it right off the bat. This person is destined to do something wrong. We get rid of the problem. Judge, jury, executioner style. Cast judgment before the evil is done. So Stephen has a problem with this. He brings up kids. People have thoughts like, oh, I don't like so-and-so. I wish X happened. But you never act upon those things. He's questioning does that reflect onto me? And that's where the judgment is cast. And what about kids? Obviously, they're innocent. They're young. They haven't grown up. They don't know. So, he's very questioning of these things. And Arthur's not getting really happy about it, or isn't happy about these questions. And he brings up the scarab, how it will lead to the tomb of Ahmed, who needs to be resurrected. And he's also going to bring up how problems are dealt with. Like, you see something diseased or whatever affected, sometimes you need to amputate. Well, unfortunate, that can solve the problem. You cut it off, whoop, it doesn't spread. And he brings up his staff, his cane, and how it has some of the powers of Ahmed inside it. And as he's bringing up this cane, everybody around him who is kind of focused in on the conversation when the scarab is brought up kind of backs away in fear. They're starting to, they're intimidated. And, Arthur seemingly threatens to use the cane and asks where the scarab is. Saving grace, here comes Layla in, arriving and saying, she has the scarab. So Khonshu says he can fix this. He's been storming around this whole time, kind of talking to Stephen. And Layla is able to kind of get Stephen out of this situation. The two have made a break for it, able to escape a little bit. While this is going on, Arthur is summoning a jackal to deal with the problem. So the two are talking. Layla's trying to convince Stephen, get in the suit. It will help, fix this, fight him off, etc., etc., etc. And, your mark, do this. Stephen's not having it. He's like, I'm not this person you think I am. I can't do this thing. I don't know what you're talking about with summon the suit. And Layla, in seeing Stephen's panic, will say, okay, you don't have to do this. Unfortunately, the jackal is going to bust in the door and is going to hit him out of the window. And as he's, taking a stumble out of the window, I don't recall if it was Layla or if it was Khonshu saying summon the suit. He's going to fall out. He's going to get hit in the head by some pipes that were outside, and he's going to transform into Moon Knight. However, this is not the Moon Knight that we've seen from last episode. It's not the cloak. It's not the crescent on the chest. It's not this big muscular version of him. Instead, Stephen has kept control of the body, his body, and it's a formation of the suit that kind of matches with him a little bit more. It's in an actual suit. Maybe his perception of what they meant and still in the white garb, the white gloves, everything like that. And he's like, oh, this is kind of impressive. And he's having this discussion with Mark, seemingly through this reflection on a door, of like, what is going on right now? Mark doesn't understand why he looks like that, but Steven's impressed, like, oh, this looks cool. And Mark's asking about the scarab. He'll look around for it. We get a little gag. I don't know if this is on purpose or whatever this was. He'll pull out some Eskrima sticks. Could be a play on the Daredevil thing. But unfortunately, the Jackal's going to attack him. So what this is going to lead to is it's kind of going to lead to the Jackal beating up Moon Knight, Steven, and throwing him around. As this is happening, we can see kind of from the civilian's perspective that Moon Knight's just getting chucked around. They can't see the Jackal. The Jackal is transparent to them. So it just looks like he's being tossed from one direction to the other. Layla's going to attempt to fight back. She's going to find a bottle and smash seemingly where the Jackal is. And through this, the liquid is going to kind of show a little bit of an outline of the Jackal, and she's able to assist a little bit more. Unfortunately, Layla's going to become in danger at one point, and Steven's going to have his hero moment. He's going to braven up, and he's going to lay a shot on the Jackal across the jaw. So luckily, he's able to hit that shot, but unfortunately becomes in danger a little bit later on. So the fight's going to continue, and Mark's going to ask for control. And he compliments the punch, but he points out all the civilians around. You can handle this, but someone is going to get hurt. Please give me control. Steven will finally allow Mark to take control. The armor and the suit is going to change into the more traditional cloak style we saw in the last episode, and Moon Knight's going to make a run for it, seemingly luring the Jackal away from this situation. We see them leaping and bounding across buildings, going off to a separate area. Mark is going to take one of the crescents off of his chest, jump off. He's going to hook the Jackal in the throat, and then seemingly like Batman Bane style break his back over a spire outside of another building. So that situation's taken care of. The Scarab is no longer with Mark, no longer with Steven, no longer with Moon Knight, and it is found on the streets by just a regular dude. And Arthur is going to discover this. He's going to ask this gentleman for the Scarab, offer him, shelter, food, stuff like that. The gentleman will hand it over, and unfortunately Arthur is going to kill him by taking his life force seemingly. All while this is happening, Layla has seen it, has witnessed it, and will drive off on her motorcycle. So now we're going to get back to our hero. We're out of the suit. Mark is frustrated, obviously, because the Scarab is gone, and he's talking with Steven through the reflection. And Steven is confused of like, where is this kind of plane or existence that he is in, and he's freaking out about it. Mark tells him, you'll be fine, relax, talks him through it. And Steven wants his body back, tries to take control back. Mark's not having it. Whoever the body controller is apparently the stronger of the two in this relationship. And, Mark is trying to explain to him what's going on. When he's done and repaid his debt to Khonshu, you'll never see him again. Khonshu wants this debt paid, but Mark is conflicted because if he settles with him, the Khonshu will move on to its next host or its next avatar, and apparently that avatar is going to be his wife. So he's trying to keep Layla safe. And Steven's going back and forth with him, kind of shouting at him, trying to understand what's going on. He's frustrated, he's angry, he's upset, as, once again, we can expect. Mark gets frustrated, and in frustration, kind of breaks the reflection that he's talking to of Steven. The Khonshu will now enter, as he was watching from a rooftop. And, he's just like, man, you were nothing more than a corpse when I found you. And, kind of explains the situation like, all right, you have a debt to be repaid here. We need to figure this out. And, Arthur or Arrow, I don't know why that was thrown out, has the scarab. So what's the plan now? And the plan is to cut him off at the tomb. So we'll cut over to Mark in a hotel, seemingly, and we'll see Steven looking on from a mirror reflection, kind of looking drained and worn down. And it reveals that they are in Egypt now, trying to move on to their next step of the adventure. And that will be the end of the episode with no post-credits. So, a lot to kind of take on in this episode. So we get a lot more information about our Mark Spector character and the whole Moon Knight persona and how that works out. Interesting stuff. I like how the show now, we have these three, well, technically four main characters, and then we got Arthur and the villain. And we're trying to figure out, like, what's going on with these four. We've obviously explored Steven a lot because he is our main protagonist. And now we have Mark entering the picture. It's this weird thing of, like, they all have things that make you want to root for them. And right now, I think Steven is our biggest, like, we want to pull for him, right? He's just a dude who's unfortunately somehow landed in this situation where he's not in control of his body and other people are. And he's a victim right now. And Mark is riding this middle line. Like, we want to cheer for him and we want him to do well because obviously he's trying to do the right thing and be a hero. But he's kind of also being an asshole in ways of controlling Steven. Clearly, obviously he's affected his life a lot. Now he, can't go on the date that he wanted to in the first episode. He's late. He's sleeping through things. He's not in control of his body. He lost his job. Like, this is affecting Steven big time. And Mark's trying to, I guess, make it as easy as possible, but unfortunately it's not working out that way. Now we get over to the Khonshu side of things, which is, I would say, probably the most conflicting, because while we have, Moon Knight with these cool abilities and stuff, it's just like he's just sending people off to do his bidding, and it doesn't seem like there's a finish point. And I think Arthur even alludes to this, like, oh, they even if he says, like, oh, at the end of this, like, you're done, there's always one more thing. Now, clearly, the Avatar will move on. We don't know much about Arthur's history with Khonshu, but cool to know there is a history there. We have more motivation, I guess, for our antagonist and what he's trying to accomplish. But from a viewer perspective, it's like this Khonshu's kind of just an asshole. Just takes, has people do his bidding as, these servants, and doesn't really care about what happens to them, I guess you could say. So it's going to be interesting trying to see what we can learn from this situation more. I don't know how this will all wrap up. Obviously, we're only 2 episodes in. We got 4 more to go. It's going to be interesting to see if truly they do leave Steven alone at the end of this thing, or if it's going to be some kind of this trio relationship between a Steven, between a Mark, and the Khonshu. Like, is that going to continue? Is Steven going to be left alone and then it's just Mark and the Khonshu together? Does Mark even have a body? Like Khonshu mentioned earlier, like, found him as a corpse, so is he dead and that's why he has to be in this body here? And if so, how did he transfer his intellect and brain, mind, I don't know, his persona into it? Like, how did he take over Steven to be the Avatar, or for that body to be the Avatar? I don't know. But yeah, it might be this weird relationship similar to, like, maybe like a Ghost Rider. Now, I don't know 100% about Ghost Rider, but obviously Ghost Rider's had this very rough kind of realization with his powers. Like, he's essentially the devil's servant, Mephisto, which everybody wants Mephisto to be a part of these Disney Plus series. Like, oh, it's Mephisto that's doing this thing. Like, it's this weird relationship. Like, he is taking care of these souls, but those souls go to Mephisto. but he is also fighting Mephisto. Like, is it going to be one of these things where Mark is technically in control of this armor set, the Moon Knight, but Khonshu is the evil, not evil, but he's very selfish and dealing with that? I don't know. There's probably people watching this who know Moon Knight comic lore and are like, man, you're really right, or man, you're a dumbass. But I wonder how that's going to work out going forward, and obviously post this series. We'll have to see. Obviously, right now, the main antagonist is going to be Arthur, and then this Ahmed character, who I assume will be resurrected, but right now we got to try and stop that. The Scarab is going to lead to the tomb, and then from there, they'll have to figure out, obviously, how to raise her and bring her justice and judgment upon people. But yeah, this has been episode 2. Hope you guys are enjoying Moon Knight. Maybe a little bit more with this episode after we got that groundwork laid out. If you guys have any interesting theories and stuff like that, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below, and I will definitely check them out for next episode. But this has been another episode of the Marvel Plus podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011. You can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat if you're a subscriber over there. We'd love to have you in on the conversation and all the fun theory talk as we go over the episodes. But if you can't catch it live, that's a-okay. Go over to YouTube, just search Enigma9011, and it's over there. Drops the very next day at 12 noon Eastern. Check it out, give it a watch, and we'd love you for it. Really enjoying this series now, guys. Trying to figure out what's going on, especially with the limited knowledge that I do have. Maybe I should do some more homework, but also don't want to spoil things for myself, at least to what could potentially happen, I guess. So we'll have to see how it goes from here. We got 4 more episodes, so excited to see more of that. Hopefully you guys are too. Thank you guys so much for giving this a watch today, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.